Hello, everybody. It says I'm live. Woo! Sorry, I don't know what's up with the monitor. Just a second. What is going on? This thing is weird. Okay. There. Let's adjust this. The whole thing was about to tip over. Okay, so as you can see, I got a little bit of sun here, and I don't look too closely. My skin is just a peeling mess. My husband and I went away on a short trip last week to Biloxi, Mississippi. It was super cheap to fly into New Orleans. If you guys want a tip, take the time and go somewhere with your husband for a little romantic getaway just for a couple days. It's really cheap right now with all this COVID craziness. We got round trip flights to New Orleans from Chicago for $70. You can Priceline hotels. You can Priceline the rental car. So the whole trip between rental car, flights, and hotel for 2 nights and 3 days was about $400. So that's my pro tip to go on a trip. So go ahead and do that if you can. Get away. It was really fun. It was a nice break mentally for me because I was able to go. We went to Ship Island, which is a really cool island. You take a ferry an hour out on the Gulf of Mexico, and it's a really pretty beach. We saw all sorts of like crabs and different things like that in the water. And, you know, I just got to lay on a rafty thing in the Gulf of Mexico for a long time and just relax and soak up the vitamin D. So it was really, really great. And then we saw our friend, I got to see my friend Heather Major, went out to eat with them, got to see them, the baby, all of her kids, but I hadn't seen her baby for a while. So that was fun. It's always fun going places where, you have friends and you can visit with them. We have friends all across the United States of America. So it's really pretty much any place we have a friend there, no matter where we are in the US. So it was a nice little getaway, but I got a lot of sun and now my whole face is just like a peeling mess. So don't look too closely. But how is everyone doing today? I see Ashley and Joy, Stina, Amber, Dorothy, Celine, Sarah, 6 million, Blanca, Morgan, and Denise. Oh, Dana, I should have done a shout out to see if you wanted to meet up sometime when I was there. It was a really short trip, but we crammed a lot into 3 days. So, okay. So let's get into the subject. Hello, Juliana. Glad you guys have joined me. I almost had to cancel because we had a huge storm that came through here. And it was 70 to 100 mile per hour winds. It knocked a few semis over on the interstate. And then there's just trees down. Our power is out at home. It's going on about three hours of no power at home. My kids are going stir crazy. They don't know what to do with no electricity. So, but luckily the church electricity was on. So I was able to go forward. Hi, Angie and KJV Disciples. Good to see all you guys. Yeah, I wish I would have. I probably should have done a shout out. It was kind of, I was posting about it on my stories, but if you don't follow me on social media, then you're not going to see it. So yeah, no, it was pretty hot, but it's cooled down to about 72. So it's not too bad. It's the storm cooled things down. It was super muggy and hot this morning and the storm rolled in and it really cooled things off. So yeah, I would be dying. I really hope it comes on by tonight because you guys know how I am about sleeping with no fan. I can't sleep if there's no fan or air circulation. So I'm praying it comes on in the next hour or two. Oh, thanks. My hair is done in just a messy bun. I have the tutorial somewhere on my channel if you want to Google it. It's super easy. My hair is getting longer. And so it's just easy to throw it up like this. And then it's off my neck. I did grocery shopping today. It's off my neck in the humidity and the heat. So that's why I did it this way. But I got to this idea when we were on our trip. And I thought I would talk about it today. And that's just how to be a blessing to your church. And this is going to apply, across the board to married, single, old, young. You guys can all be a blessing to your church. And I'm basing a lot of the points off of a family I knew in my old church, Lighthouse. They are like the model family that every pastor would love to have in his church. They've only demonstrated faithfulness, consistency, loyalty throughout the years. And Lighthouse just celebrated, I believe, its 32nd anniversary. And this family has been there the majority of the time. They are still going there. They raised their children in the church. In fact, all of their kids, at least their older three. Their older three we had in the youth group when my husband was on staff there, from the time they came into the youth group to the time they graduated. I taught one of their daughters piano all the way through her high school years. She went on to go to college. She became an amazing pianist. She is now a church pianist. Her husband's on staff. Almost all their kids are on staff at churches because this family instilled a love for church into their kids. And I've always just admired them for their consistency and their example and the way they raised their kids. They had 5 kids and they've all gotten saved. They've all done great. They're Christians serving the Lord. None of them rebelled. So I really, really look up to them a lot. And a lot of my points are based off of things that I saw in their lives. And then I also reached out to my pastor wife friends and I asked them, in your opinion, what makes a model family? And they gave me, Mrs. Joanne Jimenez actually gave me a lot of points that I'm going to be building off of. I'm going to be using, she gave me 4 or 5 points. I'm going to be using 4 or 5 points that she came up with because it's exactly what I think too. And it's exactly what I've seen in model families. So, hey, Sarah. Hey, Amanda. So I'm going to be going over everything. I had to write it out old school because I had no computer. See, there's my notes. I had to write it all out old school today. No computer, no internet because our power went down. I waited till the last minute because I had to do grocery shopping. So let's get into it. Okay, so obviously the number one tip for being a blessing to your church is you have to show up. You have to get into a good church somewhere. Wherever you go, get invested. Okay, hello, Julia. So wherever you go, get invested. And you have to show up. The number one thing I found talking to the pastors' wives, that is the biggest blessing to us, it's the biggest blessing to our church, is people showing up, people being consistent, people being there for Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, and soul winning times. People that are involved in their church, people that don't just come to the fun activities, but people that are there for the nitty gritty stuff, the work days, the cleanup, the boring days, the non-exciting days, just the humdrum days, those kind of days. So, you have to show up. And I encourage you, I know in this, new IFB movement, there's a lot of women, they, or a lot of families, they listen to the preaching online, but they're not plugged into a good church. And let's just face it, you can come up with any excuse not to go to a church. There's no good ones. But honestly, we live in America. There are Baptist churches everywhere. And there has to be one in the myriad of Baptist churches that you could go and get plugged into. Obviously, you're not going to see eye to eye on every issue. But I would say if they have salvation right, and if they use the King James Bible, go find a church like that. And just off the top of my head, now we probably, within an hour, we have maybe 2 or 3 that fit that criteria. But if I had to, I would drive an hour to go to one. So, just get plugged into a good church, and wherever you go, get invested, get involved in that church. So I had a lot of feedback from ladies on Facebook about blessings that they receive at church. And I just kind of wanted to read some of them because they were really good. Exactly. Sheila, 3 to thrive. So Amanda said, our last pastor and his wife, this is a blessing that she got just from being in church. Our last pastor and his wife would sometimes send us a random text every once in a while to encourage us and let us know they were praying for us. They were very busy and had a decent sized church. So knowing that they took the time to do that was always nice. Our church family is very sweet. My husband and I get notes, texts, and calls from our church family to encourage us. My son is here. If you keep seeing a shadow, I guess he got sick of having no Wi-Fi at home and came to the church.
No, it's because they're my alarms, so I had to get them charged. Otherwise, I wouldn't have any alarms.
Okay.
I'm going to leave them here, and then I'll be back later for them.
Okay. He's going stir crazy on hour 3 of not having his phones charged. So one thing that I noticed through many of these comments from the different women in the Gently Led Sisters group was that they talked a lot about the relationships, just how special the relationships were. And I noticed a lot of them talked about the text that their pastor or his wife would send them or their family. And so, relationships, I think, are the biggest thing. The biggest blessing with being in a church is the relationships. And I'm here to say right now, online relationships are not the same. I don't care what you say or what you're trying to convince yourself of. Online relationships are not the same. Online church is not church. Okay? Church is not just the preaching. It's the people. It's the people that are in the church. It's the fellowship. It's the talking. It's the mingling. It's getting to know each other. It's working through conflict. It's, it's the people. Church is the people. Church is not a building. Church is not even just the preaching. It's the singing. It's the fellowshipping. It's all of that. So we live in this millennial generation that is all about online relationships. And it has promoted a fake sense of reality. And I have met so many younger people in my years of ministry, but especially the last, I would say 5 years, where, and we've had some come through the church, and I've met some in other churches and so on and so forth. They come in and they have been watching online maybe, and I think it's going to be great. But then they come in and they don't know how to interact with real life relationships. They don't know how to make them work. They don't know how to work through conflict. They don't know how to meld with people because they're so used to the online. You can pretty much put any foot forward online. I can go on my Facebook and I can make people think whatever I want them to think about me. I can have a fake persona. But when you are here in real life, flesh and blood, everything comes out. Your mannerisms come out, your attitude comes out, the chip on your shoulder comes out, your friendliness comes out, your happiness comes out if you're a happy person. You can fake all that stuff online, but you cannot fake it in real life. And so this millennial generation has a fake reality, I believe, when it comes to relationships. And every person needs to get plugged into a good church just to learn how to deal with people and how to work with people. I've always been very able to, out in the world, workplaces, stores. I worked at the academy for, 3 or 4 years, 5 years, something like that. And I never had personal conflicts with any of the people I worked with because I was able to interact with them well because I knew how to smooth things over. I knew how to respond to things. And being in a situation like a church teaches you how to respond to different situations. And believe me, I've had every different situation come up in the world being in church and dealing with people. So online church is not church. And the relationships is what I saw the most through the comments that women left. It was all about relationships and just how important they were. The next one is showers. Angela wrote, getting meals on the arrival of a new baby, even when it's baby number 9. Baby showers for new babies, even when it hasn't been that long since my last baby. It's not about the gifts. It's about spending time with people I love and others sharing our joy, even when outsiders too often have something negative to say. And I really like that comment because here at Liberty, babies are loved. We love babies. And I have been at churches before that will only do showers for the oldest baby, and I just don't like that. I like showers for all babies because all babies deserve a celebration. So as long as I'm pastor's wife here, we're going to continue to do baby showers for every baby. Every baby deserves to be celebrated. And it's more for the mom. You know, that's why we only do baby showers for married women here, you know, because it's a celebration for the mom, especially, and especially if she's done things right and she's married and, you know, she's done things the biblical way, then we want to celebrate that. So yes, meal trains also, that is a huge blessing when you're in a church, when you have just a few meals lined up for the, you know, couple weeks after the baby's born. That's a big issue. Yes, we have had one wedding at Liberty. We are hoping to have more in the next few years, but we have had one wedding. It went very well. So, yeah, I love celebrating all babies. So that is a huge perk, you know, of being in a church. And like she said, babies are not looked well upon in the world a lot of times, especially if it's baby number 6, 7, 8, 9. And so it's great to be in a place that welcomes every single baby and loves every single baby and makes a big deal over every single baby. So that's a huge perk. And then Julia said, the biggest encouragement you guys have been to us is an everyday example of how life goes with a big family following the Lord, watching you with your kids or with other members of the church, and the friendship we've cultivated have been sources of strength for me. Thanks, Julia. We love you and we miss you and can't wait till you move back. They had to move away from us for a year so her husband could get training, but we're ready for them to be back. And that's just another thing. It's the encouragement that being around other people bring. It's the example. It's like this family that I'm talking about from Lighthouse, our previous church. It's me being able to watch them raise their kids and take tips and pointers. It's me maybe being able to see a bad example of a way I don't want to be, a way I don't want to raise my kids. You know, that goes hand in hand with it as well. So sorry, Amber, you'll have to give them up. They're ours. We lay claim on them. But I really liked that she said that. And then Kelly Logan said, I'm encouraged by the realness of her pastor's wife. She doesn't try to put on a show of having a perfect life or children. If she gives me any advice, I don't have to worry if she's just trying to sugarcoat things. And she's talking about Mrs. Leslie Burzens. And I love Miss Leslie. She is that way. She's just down to earth. You know, she doesn't try to pretend like she's way up here and all the other moms are way down here. You know, I appreciate women like that. I identify very strongly with that because none of us are perfect. We all have messes in our lives, and I like it when women can be real. And then when they give advice, you know, women are more likely to listen to you because they know that you're real. They know that you have mess ups, and they know that, you know, you're human, just like them. So, and I think that's very encouraging. And then Sarah said, knowing that you're there for advice on motherhood and life in general, you've seen just about everything, either with your own children or through years of ministry. That's very true. I've seen crazy things. And your sparky friendship are things that keep me encouraged by being around you. I loved that she called it a sparky friendship. That's kind of, I would describe that. Yeah, I would describe myself as sparky. I've never heard someone describe that, but that's cute. And Sarah's a blessing. Sarah is a young mom. She just had her first baby. And I think for young moms being in a church with older moms, that is such a huge blessing because you get to come with them, you know, get to come to them with questions about my baby's doing this. Is this okay? You know, you have Facebook. That's a great tool sometimes, but just her being able to be in church and asking me, we're in the mother baby room a lot. She's always nursing, you know, Mavis. And so we're in there a lot. I'm in there with Kelly a lot. And so just the interaction, getting to talk, getting to ask questions, that's great for young moms to be in a church. I can't imagine having kids and not being in church. It's always been such a huge source of encouragement for me, a huge source of information. So that is huge. That's a huge, huge thing. And Sarah said about her pastor and his wife, which are the Andersons, they are both readily available if we have questions and a wealth of knowledge concerning a variety of topics. Exactly what I was talking about, the wealth of knowledge. They're both so real calm with their children and funny too. Just great role models, in my opinion. And that's great when you're around so many different personalities in a church setting. You're going to be able to see different ways to raise your kids, and like I said, you can decide what's best for your family. Take the good, leave the bad, use this person's method, don't use that person's method. So it all goes together really well. Mrs. TJ Lyons said, we go where my husband grew up, and my husband has always said he loves how real they are. They laugh and joke after church, the same as at home. I love how they have always been honest with us, no matter if it's what we wanted to hear or not. And that's awesome. I think one of the biggest things at Liberty Baptist Church is the fellowship. People get here early. People stay late. The guys just talk so many times, and the ladies know. So many times us ladies are just sitting around waiting for the guys to get done talking. And that fellowship is something that they can't get out in the world, on their jobs, and where they're looked at like they're crazy. That's very close-knit relationship that only happens in a church setting. Cindy said, the church that my family went to before going to Stronghold Baptist was hard to be at. The pastor and his entire family never showed any emotion besides happiness. And then she kind of just went on to talk about how, they were very standoffish, pastor and his family. And then she said Pastor Berzins and Leslie Berzins are totally opposite. They're real. They get sick. They need prayers just like everyone else. And they will ask for help and take help that's offered when is needed. Their family is such a blessing to our church and our family. And I love that because, she was acknowledging pastors and their families. They're not above everyone else. I hate the term first lady. I tell my ladies, don't ever call me the first lady of the church. I hate that term. It implies, first of all, that being a pastor's wife is some sort of biblical role, which it is not. There is no biblical role of being a pastor's wife. My role is I am the wife of the pastor. Okay. So obviously I need to try to set an example, but I would do that as a layman's wife, just being a Christian. I try to act and respond as I would just being a Christian. And I feel everyone should act that way. Just try to be a good Christian lady. That's our goal. So I don't like this elevation of pastors' families above everyone else, being very standoffish. I've always tried to remain very real and honest with the ladies and be friends with them. Obviously you're not going to click with everyone, but the majority of the time I click really well with everyone. So yeah, it's a huge source of encouragement. So, and then Rita said that her pastor's wife is a sweet lady with a sweet spirit. And it's a really long comment, so I'll just kind of break it down a little bit. They said their pastor and his wife are always willing to help the older people in their church especially. We have a bond with the pastor and his wife, and we love the fellowship we share after services. Sometimes we end up staying late after services, so late that we end up having dinner together. The times we share together mean so much. So, and she's just talking about the encouragement for the relationships. I'm telling you, relationships are a huge part of this. And then Janae said, all our families in another state, your church family truly becomes your family. I'm thankful they are always there when you need help. And then thanks for watching my baby. She's been having some pregnancy complications and her family lives far away. We're her family now. So, we'll watch the baby if she needs us to watch the baby. They're not going to let you take a baby in the hospital with COVID. And she's had to be admitted a couple times the past couple weeks. So, and it truly does. Your church family, sometimes you're closer to your church family. You have more in common with your church family than you do your real family, your flesh and bone family. And I've really noticed that my relationships are very strong with my church family. There's a kinship there that you don't always share, with with other just regular family members. So, and then Miss Sheila said, what I love about Pastor Thompson and Sherry is that they are our friends too. We do things outside of church often, fellowship meal, celebration. Yep. And in fact, the guys in our church, we need to plan something, ladies. We need to go somewhere. We need to try to do that. Have all our husbands watch the kids while we go somewhere. they're always having like game nights, and they'll stay together playing ping pong or whatever till 12 midnight. And so, and now we're working on the church building. So there's a lot of the fellowship there with the guys, with the painting, and, Brother Matt's, one of the men in our church, has been over there like staying days to just paint and give of his time and things like that. So, I was like, who is John Gamer? That's funny. And then Brittany said, that everyone was very blessed after the comment. She said that they've been to their church for 3 years and the pastor's wife has never even looked at them, much less spoken to them. I'm sorry. That's very sad. And then Megan said she was, talking about how close she is to her pastor's wife. I can't read all of these. There's some really good comments. So if you are not in the Gently Led Sisters group, please join it on Facebook and you'll get to see all these great comments. And she's talking about Miss Dana Fritz, one of my friends. And she's talking about just how great she is, how they're able to talk, and she's able to give her godly advice. And then April went through some constant horrible health issues. And the pastor's wife would check in on her. She would text to make sure she was okay. And that meant a lot to her, just knowing that someone was looking out for her. And then Raquel said her pastor and his wife are such a blessing to them. They've been there to help them in times of need and encourage us. The pastor's wife is an inspiration to her as a mother. And this is Robin. And she's got 7 kids and her kids are great. And I agree with her. And that's another thing, just being an example. And Miss Sheila, you left a comment on here, but, oh, there you go. She said, Pastor Thompson and Miss Sherry have always went above and beyond, encouraging, helping, loving, and teaching me on how to be a better Christian. So they're good role models. They're always providing for us as individuals in a church. They have wonderful servants' hearts. Sherry is her favorite person ever. There's nothing she can't talk to her about. And then she mentioned her church family at the end, always helping each other. And, when you need to be lifted up, they're fun to be around. They're her true family. So once again, all those comments, and I wasn't able to get through all of them. I got through most of them, but just join the group if you want to see them all. It's all about encouragement. It's all about relationships. You are not going to get that online. You can, and I mean, I've seen it this past year. Online friendships are not the same as real life friendships. There's just a different strength of unity in real life friendships. And, people that you meet online, you're not getting to know them through their mannerisms. Even you guys that watch me, you know me through watching me through YouTube, but most of you haven't been around me much in real life. And if you were around me in real life, maybe you would find, oh, she's different than I imagined her to be. Or, oh, she's about the same. I try to act the same on camera as I do any other time, but my kids tell me I have like a YouTube voice or something. I don't know. They say that I don't act the same. I try to, but I think we all kind of, I don't know, subconsciously act a little different when we know that we're in front of people. So, I would encourage all of you, visit different churches and see. I love our church. Obviously, I'm biased, but I feel like we have one of the friendliest churches in the world. And I have found that the people that come through that can't get along with anyone in our church, they're the problem. They really are. I truly believe that. And I mean, we're very welcoming to guests. We're very welcoming to people that come in. And I want everyone to feel welcome here. I want everyone to feel like this is a safe place that they can come and, a drama-free zone. And for the most part, all of the ladies here, we meld very well together. All of the men meld. Obviously, there's conflict that arises sometimes, but we're able to work through that. And I found that the ones that come in that are not able to work through that, they are usually, online listeners that they don't have a lot of practice or experience. Maybe they've only been newly saved, and they, like one of the couples that first started coming when we were first having the church. They had just gotten saved when we started the church. So they were like super, super baby Christians. And they were new to the world of navigating friendships and navigating relationships. And interestingly enough, every family relationship that they had was severed. They couldn't even make it work with their own family. And so they came into church and they kind of brought that with them, you know, and unfortunately that seems to be the case. Now, my husband's family and my family, we have very opposite viewpoints on things, very opposite, but we get along great. You know, my family, my side of the family, we go stay in a cabin three days out of the year, all of us. And we are like so night and day when it comes to some things. But you learn how to get along with people. You learn how to navigate tricky relationships. And when you only have the online ones, you're not going to be good at that. So I can't emphasize that enough. Online is not the same. So you can always find an excuse not to go to church. I already said that. You know, you're not going to be a strong Christian if you don't go. You can listen to preaching all day long, sermons galore, the whole day. You can repeat back facts. You can repeat back Bible verses, but not everyone knows how to interact with people on a one-to-one basis. You don't know how to put that Bible knowledge into practice. You don't know how to love each other and forbear each other and forgive each other if you're not in a church setting. If you're only watching the online preaching, you're not going to know how to put all that stuff into practice. So anyone can, you know, state back facts. Not everyone can live it though. So, and then now these next points, these are based off of a few of the points are the ones that Mrs. Jimenez gave me. And then, you know, a few of the points are based off of the family I was talking about at the beginning. The very special family at Lighthouse that every pastor would love to have. And interesting enough, I was talking about this with Mrs. Jimenez and Mrs. Sherry Thompson. Most of the families that are the model families in our churches end up leaving and starting another church. It always seems like it goes that way. Now, this family at Lighthouse did not. He was just, you know, a layman and just consistent, faithful, tithing member. But I think right now, 3 out of his 5 children are in full-time ministry in the church. So even though he wasn't, you know, he raised children that are now full-time ministry people. So, you know, it's really cool how that worked out. But, you know, one of the number one things that she said was just consistency, being consistent. Don't be flip-floppy. Don't be in and out of church. Don't be, you know, one day I'm coming 3 times a week, then I miss a month. Then I'll come 3 times a week for a couple weeks, then I'll miss 2 months. You know, consistency, coming every single service, being there. The number one thing when I was talking to the pastors' wives, one of the biggest things that you will not even understand unless you become a pastor's wife is what a blessing it is for people just to show up. Every preacher needs someone to preach to, right? They want to look out and see more than just their family sitting there. So just show up. That's such a huge blessing. You don't even know how much of a blessing that is. You know, number 2, hard workers. And, you know, workers that, and this fits that family to a T. I mean, she ran all the food at all the fellowships. She organized it. She organized all the food for weddings, for graduations, for funerals. She's amazing at that. We used to have sports teams there, basketball and volleyball. She ran the concession stand, you know, and that raised money for the school, the free school that we had there, just for members' kids. So she was just so good at that. And they did it without complaining. They were just always there, always working. Their son has, he's 18 now, but he started mowing the lawn when he was like 12 and has mowed the lawn every single week, every single year. So he's been doing it for 6 or 7 years now. They're just hard workers. And that is a huge blessing to any pastor. You know, they love the church, don't cause problems. And if they do cause some sort of drama, they try to make it right. Inevitably, we're all going to clash at some point. Inevitably, we're all going to have conflict. Inevitably, there's going to be some type of conflict that arises, but how you deal with it is the key. If you completely freak out and go to pieces over conflict, you're not going to move forward as a Christian. So you have to learn how to calmly and respectfully and not mockingly deal with conflict that arises. We're a huge group of people with different preferences and different tastes and different opinions. I mean, look at how much you and your husband had to work through when you first got married, just living with a person with a completely different personality than you. And if you've noticed, we'll be married 20 years in April. You figure each other out. I know what ticks my husband off, so I stay away from that. He knows what ticks me off, so he stays away from that. You learn what each other like, you learn what each other dislikes, and it's the same way in a church family. You get to know each other. If someone has a problem with something, just avoid it. You don't have to trigger people, and then just learn how to be a type of person that others don't have to walk around on eggshells. Don't be easily offended. Let things roll off your back. Realize if someone meant to be funny and just came off the wrong way. There have been some people that have come in. I can tell that their intention was to harm or their intention was to hurt. But even with that, I just kind of have to store it away and take mental note of it, but then just keep it to yourself. You don't need to go around telling everyone about it. So, love the church. Don't cause problems. Don't cause drama. Don't be causing fires that your pastor has to constantly put out, whether that's online, in person, whatever. People that are model families are not showy. They don't do things to be seen of men. And I have been blessed to know a lot of people like this throughout the years. They are just quietly, my mother-in-law was like this. As the pastor's wife, she was always involved, but never in the spotlight. She is an introvert. She doesn't like being in the spotlight, but she was there. I can't imagine how things would have fallen apart all the years that my father-in-law was a pastor without her being there, just being the calming force behind him. She was always organizing things. She took care of the paperwork for the school. No one ever really knew about it, but the school would not have run as well without her doing all the paperwork and the grading when it came to ACE and all that, and the record keeping. She's really good at record keeping. That's all stuff that went on behind the scenes, and no one knew about it. But me, because I know her and I know how churches run, I knew that it would have been a huge detriment to the ministry if she wouldn't have been behind the scenes doing all that. She was never showy about it. And neither is this family. They were never showy about what they did. They just showed up quietly. They did their work and they went about their business. And that was awesome. Good families, good model families, keep the pastor and his family in the loop. They let them know of problems or concerns. Believe me, we want to know if you have a problem with something. Don't let it bottle up. And we've seen this too many times where we know something's wrong. I'm not stupid. I wasn't born. I know, I see everything that goes on in church. I see people's mood change. I see their demeanor change. I see their countenance change, and I can tell there's a problem. And so when you keep telling me there's no problem, when I'm asking if there's a problem, I know that you're not being truthful with me. I would rather just know. Tell me if there's a problem and we can address it. My husband is the ultimate. He is so good at diffusing situations with people, especially in person. He's very, very good. He communicates very well one-on-one with people. He can get a point across without being snarky or condescending or mocking. And he's really good at diffusing situations. I've seen him do it throughout the years so many times. When a potential volatile situation could explode, he has known how to diffuse it. So we want to know of problems before they get to an explosion, and I think every pastor wants to know of problems before they get to an explosion. It's better to deal with them head on than wait until they're to that point. So keep your pastor and his wife in the loop. Now, I'm not saying go tattling about every little thing. I'm talking about if there's legitimate concern or legitimate problem, bring it to them in a very good manner and just let them know what's going on. Let them know your concerns. Believe me, they will appreciate it. He will definitely appreciate it. Love for the pastor and his family. Okay, so now I have had some red flags throughout the years. I'm going on 9 of being a pastor's wife, and then almost 20 of being in the ministry. Assistant pastor's wife for 10, and then year 9 of being a pastor's wife. So I've interacted with people a lot. And one of the red flags is when someone comes into church, married, single, whatever, and they have a huge problem with me, but they get along great with my husband. That's always a red flag to me. I don't know why, but it always is a red flag to me. If you can't get along with me, you're probably not going to get along with my husband, because we are one. You know, when you get married, you are one. So if someone doesn't like me, they don't like my husband. If someone doesn't like my husband, they don't like me. That's just how it goes. I'm going to have his back. He's going to have my back. And, you know, so if you are someone that comes in and you don't like me, maybe just find another church. And I mean, I have a very strong personality, but I also do, you know, I do care for everyone in my church. I have a personal investment in everyone, and I truly care for you. And I truly want you to be happy here, you know, and not to be offended over things and not to get upset about things. And, you know, that's what I want for everyone. But there have been personalities that come in that don't mesh well with that. So a big red flag is if someone comes in and they can't stand the pastor's wife, yet they can get along with the pastor. You know, that's usually a pastor and his wife are a package deal. So if you can't get along with one or the other, that's usually a red flag. And every single person that has come through that has had a huge problem with me eventually ends up causing drama and leaving. You know, coincidence? I don't think so. So that's just an interesting, you know, thing I've noticed. But good families in the church, model families, they usually provide steady, calm support. They're just there. You know, they show up in their spot. They sit there, they listen, they don't cause drama. They just give steady, calm support. They're an encouragement to the pastor. Maybe this was something that some of the pastor's wives said. The wives really appreciated it when people in their church would send their husband an encouraging text. You know, maybe he thinks he had a dud of a sermon, but it really spoke to you. You know, let him know that. Let him know, hey, you know, that sermon was really great. It really spoke to me. It was just what I needed at the exact time I needed it. That's really encouraging to him. So now for me, I would say actions speak louder than words to me. I would rather see someone just do things than do a lot of flattery. But there's a difference between a sincere compliment and flattery. Flattery is just over the board, you know, above and beyond. You know, the preacher can do no wrong. You know, no one's the greatest preacher as you. You're an amazing preacher. You know, I've never sat under one who's just expounded on God's word so much that just enlightened my eyes and provided all this biblical truth. You know, that's a little over the top. That would be under flattery. And any flatterer that's ever come through here it's not ended well. So flattery is another big red flag. But there is a huge difference between flattery and over the top stuff versus, you know, just a sincere compliment. So I'm sorry, I've not been watching the chat at all. I have so much to cover. Heather said, I really think opposites attract when it comes to friends because my very best friends have a strong personality like you, Miss Cassandra, and I am just the total opposite. When people try to walk all over me, she steps in without being rude, but being blunt and honest. Well, I am not great at that. That's funny that you would say that because my friends, all my best friends through the years have had a personality where they would just rather take something from someone as far as junk than stand up to them. And I've gone to bat for them before. And I'm sorry, even on Facebook, I guess I can come across kind of bold to some people, and they like it when I'm on their side. But if I ever rebuke someone when I'm not on their side, they don't take it very well. But I have a problem when I see people that I love being attacked, and when it's directly related to me. You know, if it's one of my close personal friends in real life, and I see someone viciously attacking them or calling their character into question, I usually will speak up and say something, even if they want it. You know, and most of the time too, if I see slander against myself, which I have seen many nasty comments directed at me online, I just ignore it and move on. I have a very hard time ignoring it and moving on if it's my husband or if it's one of my close personal friends in real life. So I've just come to the point where I'm going to call it out if I see it, because things have gotten ridiculous this year in some areas, with people being a little too, I don't know. It's like this year has made everyone crazy and bold in ways that they never have been. And so they're looking for demons where there aren't demons and looking for bad men where there aren't bad men, and just shooting at everything that moves. So I've gotten to the point where if it's my close personal friend, then I'm going to say something if I see it. So if any of you listen and you don't want me to see it, just unfriend me so I don't see it, because it's better that way sometimes. But I am quite like that. I will stick up for the ones that I love. And I find that if my close personal friends are being attacked by someone, I'll try to distance myself from the person attacking them, if that makes sense, because I'm not interested in a relationship with someone that is attacking my husband or my close personal friends. That's just, loyalty is very important to me. And my friendships are very important to me. And most of these friendships I'm talking about are real friendships, real in bone, you know, that doesn't even make sense, but real life in the flesh relationships. That's what I'm trying to say. These are relationships. Those are the ones I'm talking about. Not even online friendships. You know, I'm going to take my real life friends over the online ones. And I love this community that we have right here. You know, I do feel a kinship with all of you that come and you chat and we talk, and you're in the Gently Led Sisters group. But a lot of you I've met in person. And, you know, Amber, I've known her for years, years and years, since she was a teenager. You know, I used to coach my volleyball girls when they would play against her in volleyball. So I've known her for years. A lot of you I've met in real life, and I really care deeply for you. So, and I take those things very seriously. I can't turn on a dime and attack people that are my friends. I can't. That's not who I am. And if you call that being a bleeding heart, then so be it. I guess I'm a bleeding heart. You know, if that's a bad thing in today's world of fickle relationships and ever-changing relationships, then I'll take it. Call me that if you want to. So, but here are some red flags when it comes to watch out for these things. You know, try not to do these things. You know, try to do the things that I just mentioned up above, being consistent, not causing drama, just, you know, being an encouragement and help and, you know, all those type of things. So these are red flags, though. Try not to do these. You know, one of the number one things I've seen with people that come in that usually fizzle out is they immediately want a position or a title. That is usually a bad sign. That means that they're coming here for one purpose, and that is to gain a platform, to gain notoriety, to maybe not spend years working or training. We have several men in our church right now training under my husband, but it's not a process that happens overnight. For a man to ordain someone, for a preacher to ordain someone, that is serious stuff. And my husband has never sent anyone out from our church, and he wants to be extremely careful the first time he does. And so he takes it very, very seriously. You know, there was seven pastors that ordained him, and they took it very, very seriously when they ordained him. He sat through like grueling, like 3 hours of questions or something when they ordained him, just to see if he knew the Bible. And he does. He knows the Bible forwards and backwards. And then he sat in front of the entire congregation where they asked him questions all of the preachers asked him different questions in front of the congregation. And then the congregation gave their approval, and all the pastors laid hands on him and they gave their approval, and they took that very, very seriously. So it's a very serious thing. So if someone comes in and he doesn't want to spend the time training, he doesn't want to spend the time under the pastor showing, that he is serious about this, showing his character, showing his work ethic, that's a huge red flag. So wives, if you have a husband that wants to be a pastor someday, remember that it's not an overnight thing, and it's going to take years before maybe the pastor's comfortable with laying hands on him and ordaining him and sending him out, representing your church. Because when we send someone out from Liberty Baptist Church, they will be representing Liberty Baptist Church. So it's a very, very serious thing. And it shows a lot of character when someone's willing to come and invest the time and work and the years, training under the pastor. So it's a big red flag when people only want the spotlight positions, when they only come and they only want to preach. They don't want to do the soul winning. They don't want to do the work around the church. They don't want to empty the garbage. They don't want to do the things that aren't seen. It's a big red flag when they just want all the teaching time, or, they only want to do videos, or they only want to be on YouTube. They only want to do the clickbait titles for sermons. That's a big red flag. So another red flag, we've kind of covered it. They have a dislike for the pastor's wife, or the pastor. They try to undermine her to other women. They try to cause conflict between her and other women, or, with a guy, they try to undermine the pastor to other men. They try to cause conflict between the pastor and the other men. This isn't something I've really seen too much with men that have come through. It is definitely something I have seen with women. And one thing as a pastor's wife, if I have any ladies that are watching that will eventually be a pastor's wife, one thing you have to remember is that when people come in and they're trying to cause division and they want to hurt the pastor, they're going to go through the wife or the kids. It's the number one mechanism. It's why people attack. A lot of times why comments are directed towards me or directed towards our kids, it's a way to try to get to my husband, because obviously me and the kids are the number one thing that he loves and cares about in this life. So people are going to try to attack us to get to him. And it's just something you have to be aware of and not take personally. And just remember, it comes with the territory. And people are often going to do that as a way to try to get to him. So, but that's a red flag if someone tries doing that. So if you have friends within the church and they're trying to do that to you, one way of dealing with it is, you know what? Yeah, that's very interesting that you're telling me this. Why don't we go to, Mrs. Bursons and talk to her about this? Why don't we go to Pastor Bursons and talk to him about this concern? That should shut it down really quickly if you do that. And they probably won't ever try again. So another red flag is maybe families that blow in. They let their kids make messes, destroy everything. They won't clean up after them. They won't correct their kids. Their kids are just going crazy. And then they get offended if you request that they do. Try to watch out for this. And this isn't even like, oh, you're a horrible person if you do this. Okay, we're all guilty of this. I'm guilty of this. I have 7 kids. My younger 3 make a huge mess sometimes, but I try to make them clean it up for the most part. So, if you have kids in the church and you see them make a mess, just tell them to clean it up. You're going to help things out so much better. You're going to help your pastor's wife out. You're going to help your pastor out. Like, even with our church, we're trying to sell it. So things need to be somewhat presentable after every service. And we have a lot of people here in a small building all day on Sunday. So by Sunday night, it is a mess. It looks like a tornado has been through. And I'm telling you, I appreciate the ladies and the men. And I've seen men doing this. They don't know I see, but I see everything. I see the men taking out the trash without, making a show of it. I see the women cleaning up. I see the women vacuuming. It's a huge help to me, and it takes a lot off of me because I want the church to look good, so I'm going to take on that burden myself if it doesn't get done. So that's just something to look out for. Look out for ways to clean up your messes, clean up your water bottles, clean up the little bits of paper that your kids tear up, because mine do it all the time. And I make them clean it up. Look for ways to help out when it comes to that. A red flag is those who don't want to be involved or have roots. Roots are super important when you're in a church. If you're here for the long haul and you want to raise your family here, get some roots down. Move if you have to, so you don't have to drive 3 hours away. If you can't get roots down, find a church that you can. That's super, super important. Whatever church you pick, you need to get roots down in it and you need to be involved. So, and then, another red flag are the ones who only come to fun things. Don't only come to the fun things. Try to be there for everything. And then my baby's in here. You can hear her. And then also a big red flag is the ones who try using the wife to get to the husband. We kind of talked about that. Those who come complaining to the pastor. Those who come to the church comparing the pastor to another pastor. That's a big red flag. Every pastor has their unique personality in their church. They're going to all do things differently. We're independent for a reason. We've never joined a club. Actually, my husband just went to this church planners conference thingy, and is at some IFB church, I don't know, not too far from here, and they plant churches, and they're trying to convince him to join this association or something. And I don't even think the association is bad in and of itself. It's an association where they all kind of just help plant churches, IFB churches. But he's just so anti-establishment, anti-association, anti-club that he doesn't even want to join it just for that. He told them, because they were really pressuring him when he was there, and he told them, he's like, I will donate money to it. I'll donate money to help these churches get started, but I don't want to be a part of an association. And I agree completely with that. We're independent for a reason. And so each pastor is going to do things differently. The ones that have come through here expecting my husband to be just like a pastor that they listen to online, or they have, I don't know, a conception about, like a misconception about, or they have misconceptions about my husband being this way. They've always kind of fizzled out. It doesn't work. My husband's not like any other pastor. He's very unique. He runs things in a unique way. And, every church has its own different personality. And I feel like a lot of the churches adapt to the personality of their pastor. And I feel like a lot of people in our church have with my husband. They've kind of adapted to his personality. And every pastor is going to pastor differently. So a big red flag, if you decide to go to a church, you need to stand behind the pastor that you decide. You need to not compare him to other pastors. And you need to wholeheartedly agree with him, especially publicly, even if he holds a different position than your favorite pastor, your favorite online pastor or something. It's okay to have favorite preachers and listen to different preachers and things like that. But when it comes to your local independent Baptist church, that is completely different than listening to online pastors. And you need to be plugged into that church, and you need to be supportive of that pastor. It really bothers me when people have come through our church and they get caught on the online drama, and then they turn that against my husband. Okay, these online pastors, while they're great, they are not the ones that are there day in and day out that you sit under their preaching in person, listening to that preaching. They're not the ones who try to work through your problems with you. They're not the ones who are giving you spiritual advice day to day. Their wives aren't the ones who have spent hours on the phone with you before. So that's all stuff you need to take into consideration. And when you decide to become a member of a church, that is your church. Okay. An online pastor is not your pastor anymore. That in flesh pastor is your pastor. You need to stand behind him. You need to support him. It's okay to disagree. I'm sure there's people in our church that have disagreed with my husband on things, but they keep their mouths shut publicly. They don't run their mouths online. They don't leave comments. They don't try to cause division. They just keep their thoughts to themselves, and that's the correct way to handle it. So, once you decide I'm a part of this church, get plugged in. That's a huge thing. Stand behind your pastor, support him, Support his decisions. If you disagree, that's fine. And you know what? Our guys have discussions that last for hours after church, and they get pretty animated sometimes. They don't always agree with my husband, and it's kind of fun because they all throw out different ideas. My husband can take that. He's secure enough in what he believes. He doesn't mind if, men in the church have a different position than him. Where he would have a problem is if they're all over online, Pastor Tommy's so stupid, he believes this and I think it's this, then you're going to have a problem. But it's okay to throw out different ideas. It's okay to have different opinions, but when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, you need to publicly support your pastor, and you don't need to be running your mouth against him. You don't need to be engaged in gossip against him, whether that's online, whatever. Stand behind your pastor. So, and then the last thing is, and some of the pastors' wives said this, a big red flag sometimes are people that just don't care about the pastor's opinion, don't care about different guidelines in place in church, and they just come in and do their own thing anyways. Well, it's my family, they don't allow running in the church, but it's my family and it's my rules, so they can run. Respect the rules of the church and respect the rules of the pastor. If you went into some store and there was a sign that said no running, you wouldn't let your kids run in the store. So I don't understand why church is any different. If they have a no eating in the auditorium policy, don't eat in the auditorium. Respect the rules. In fact, we're probably going to have to implement that in our new church building because we're going to have new carpet and all that. So we're probably going to have to limit food. So I'm going to have to make sure my own kids follow that because they're not very good about that sometimes. So, try to know what the rules are. And like for us, we don't have like this rule sheet in our church. Even in the mother baby room, I don't have a list of rules up. I just kind of expect the moms to know what is acceptable and what's not. I kind of trust their judgment. And I have not had any issues. In 9 years, I've not had any issues. So that's pretty good. And the law exists for lawbreakers. So if I have someone come in and their kids are just rotten and terrors, and I have to put up a list of rules, it's because there's been some laws being broken. But so far, so good. I've not had to do that. But, you kind of get a feel for what's acceptable, what's not, what the pastor expects, what he doesn't, and try to follow that. Try to realize it's not your home. He's not going to come into your home and tell you how to run things, and the church is where he is the authority and he is the overseer and he is the shepherd. So, try to adhere to those rules and try to adhere to all that stuff. Hello, Raquel. I think that's your name. So let me read the comments here. I missed a lot. Suzanne said, and I know who your pastor is because that's my friend, Miss Anderson. My pastor's wife is a prayer warrior, and it means so much when I know she's praying for me and my family. Yes, she's very good about that. She'll always tell me, okay, if I have something, I'm praying for you, Cassie, and I know she is. I also appreciate it when she lets me know how I can pray for her. Yeah. And you know what? If you want to, let your pastor's wife know that she can be open and honest with you. She doesn't have to pretend like she has it all together. She's going to have bad days too. Let her know to let you know if she needs prayers. If she needs some encouragement throughout the day. So I missed most of the chat today, guys. Sorry about that. So sorry about all the chat that I missed. I'll try to keep a better eye on it next week. So Trisha said, telling my pastor what I really loved about his sermons, I think is so good because I feel it's encouraging to him to keep preaching harder and harder.
I'm trying to find something.
Can you please not be digging through stuff while I'm doing a live? Thank you. I have now had 3 different children come in and out of here. I'm telling you, it's because we don't have power at home and they're going crazy. So that's pretty pathetic. Act like Little House on the Prairie. Oh my goodness. I've never had that many interruptions in one show. That's real life. So, yeah, Shara, sorry, I missed a bunch of your comments. So I saw that you were writing them down, but anyways, if you guys have any suggestions on how you think, you can get a blessing out of church, or you can be a blessing to your church, please leave them down below. make sure you like it. We have 4 thumbs up, but there's 40 people watching it, so we can get more thumbs up than that. Remember, any interaction that you do with the channel gets it out there more. I noticed we had a big uptick this week in subscribers. I don't keep too much an eye on that. It's not really a big deal to me, but I definitely want to hit 2,000. I feel like it's taking us forever to hit 2,000. Yeah, we're at 1960 right now. So we have 40 more. Come on, we can get 40 more. You guys need to like share more or something. I don't know. Not even a way to promote me. I'm just sick of being stuck here forever. So Andrew Sluter has like 2.5 thousand. Come on. I was ahead of him for a while. I fell way behind. My one goal is just to be Andrew Sluter. So, and I'm way behind now. So we have a lot of ground to make up. So, I mean, people will watch his Ruckmanite garbage. You know, I know there's more ladies that can benefit from a channel like this than people that watch his Ruckmanite garbage. So anyways, yep. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. And we will talk to you next week. I got to try to, I'm thinking about doing a back to school. I need to talk to Karen. I haven't seen her pop on here tonight, but I need to talk to her about doing a back to school episode. So look for that in the next week or two. I'm going to try to get her on here. She is great, a wealth of knowledge. So let's see what happens. Okay. So all you ladies have a lovely week. If you live by water and sun and a beach, go to it. I think it will help everyone's mental capabilities with dealing with this stupid COVID stuff. So go get some sunshine, go get some fresh air before the summer ends. It's great. So, all right, guys, we will see you next week. Bye.